Taylor Home here from Border Home Inspection. In the background, you can see I'm standing in front of a panel. It's a 1976 house, and it has some aluminum wire in it, and I wanted to talk about that for a bit. This is my understanding of aluminum wire, okay? So somebody might disagree with me, that's fine. If there's other information out there that you want to read and believe, then that's fine. It's all about safety, and I just wanted to give you a heads up on how I perceive aluminum wire. Okay, so what happened was in the 1970s, copper became very expensive. Copper is a great conductor of electricity, but so is aluminum. And what they determined to do was, let's switch over to aluminum, which is much less money, so that we can keep the cost down. And when they did that, everything worked well for a little while, and then they started to realize there's a problem. There's for some reason the electrical aluminum wiring is causing some fires. That's not to say that every single piece of aluminum that's ever been installed has caused fires. It's a great conductor, not quite as good as copper, but pretty good. So what was happening, and I don't know if I can show you, but basically, when you connect or put two wires together, one's aluminum, one's copper, you put one under load and one not, let's say. There's lots of combinations. This is just one example. So you put those together and you put a wire nut on top to hold them together. If you put the aluminum wire under load, so, let's say it's a heater, right? It takes a lot of power. So that wire gets hot, and the aluminum has a tendency to expand and contract, so it moves a little bit. Inside that wire nut. And if there's room and it comes apart, what happens is it starts to arc and it creates a really hot spot. So if you ever touch two wires together, as soon as you touch them together, a little spark. And that's what that wire will start doing. And when it's under load, it starts to get really hot, and it can eventually melt the fixture it's in. It gets so hot it can actually start a fire, and it does sometimes. Again, there's a lot of people out there that would tell you that it's just a matter of time. Well, that hasn't been my experience. Aluminum is pretty safe for the most part. If you want to make the aluminum wire safer, what you can do is most of the fixtures that they put in these houses are modern day fixtures. They're not rated ALCU, which is aluminum and copper connectors. They're only rated for copper. So if you take wires from the inside the box and you bring the aluminum wire in and you pigtail, so you bring a couple wires down to the aluminum, so you don't connect them directly to the fixture itself, you connect them to a pigtail. And then you put either you put a special connector on there that doesn't allow the wires to come apart, or you put a special paste on there. And electricians might have other methods they use, but essentially they can do that. So they will come into your house and they'll look at all the circuits and they'll say, okay, we got 12 circuits here, and we're going to go through and we're going to check each of the fixtures, and we're going to make sure that everything's nice and tight and working well. Anything that might be suspect, we're going to change. And it's going to cost you between $500 and $1,000, let's say. That's just a guess. I've seen it, seen it low like 500. I've seen it high as 1,000. So they're going to make sure that your wiring is safe. And that's what I recommend you do. But if you want, and there's going to be some electricians come in and say, oh, aluminum wire is not safe, you should remove it all. You can imagine how much money that's going to cost. It's going to be far more than $1,000. So that wouldn't be my recommendation, and that's not generally the recommendation of the association that I'm part of, or the National Electrical Code, anything like that. So pigtailing and proper connections are the recommended way to make sure that the aluminum wire stays safe. Most insurance companies will still insure aluminum wire. They just want to know that it's there, and some might ask you to have it checked by a qualified electrician. I like to do my checks. I pointed out a couple of issues in the panel here, and I pointed out the presence of the aluminum wire. The amount of aluminum in the panel is also important to insurance companies. They say, is there 10%? Is it only 2 circuits? And if it's only 2 circuits, maybe you want to just take them out, right? There's only like 4 wires that you have to take out and change, then do it. But if it's like this house and it's 80 to 90% aluminum, it just doesn't pay. It's not, cost versus benefit is just not there. And you don't want to be saddled with that cost. So that's my take on aluminum wire. Again, I know that there'll be people out there that'll want to add more, and that's great. Or there'll be people that totally disagree with me, and that's okay too. I learn from comments that people leave. Sometimes I learn things I didn't know. And if I knew everything, I'd be charging a lot more money than I do. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned to the next one.